77 years, a biblical number, a number that speaks of completeness, of fulfillment, of the divine pattern woven through time. On this day, 77 years ago, a miracle took place, a prophecy thousands of years old, spoken by the ancient seers, was fulfilled before the eyes of the world, the birth of a nation, against all odds, in the face of hostility, and from the ashes of the impossible, Israel was reborn. Today, we stand at the intersection of history and destiny, 77 years since that day, and yet the world still watches, wonders, and trembles at what it signifies. It was more than a political event. It was more than a gathering of exiles. It was a divine appointment, the return of the ancient people to their ancient land, a land long forsaken, a language long silent, a covenant seemingly broken. Yet, against all the powers that sought to erase it, Israel stood again. Do you understand the significance? It was not merely a rebirth. It was a declaration that the Word of God does not fail, that no matter how dark the night, how fierce the storm, how ruthless the enemies, the promise endures. For the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had sworn it would be so. And on that day, May 14, 1948, prophecy became history. But why 77? In the Scriptures, the number 7 is the number of completion. 77 is a double portion, a profound fulfillment, a jubilee within a jubilee, a completion beyond completion. It is the unfolding of the divine mystery, a glimpse into the Almighty's timetable. Throughout these 77 years, Israel has faced war, hatred, and threats of annihilation. Yet, through it all, it has prospered, flourished, and fulfilled the ancient words, that though they be scattered to the ends of the earth, they would return. Though the land lay desolate for generations, it would bloom once more. Though their enemies conspired against them, they would be preserved. And now, as we reflect on this appointed time, we must ask ourselves, what does this mean for the world? What does it mean for us? The restoration of Israel is not just a political reality. It's a divine sign. It is a warning, a wake-up call to the nations. It's a trumpet blast from the heavens, declaring that the God who keeps his covenant with Israel is the same God who holds the destinies of nations in his hands. 77 years, a prophetic landmark. It is not the end of the story, but a sign that the story is reaching its climax. The nations are gathered, the conflict intensifies, the prophecies converge. It is time to awaken from complacency, to recognize the hour we are in. The restoration of Israel is the precursor to the unfolding of even greater mysteries, a sign that the ancient words are alive, active, and coming to pass. So let us not be silent. Let us not stand idle. The world may ignore, the nations may rage, but the word of God will not return void. Let us be those who discern the times, who stand firm, who speak truth. Let us be those who, like ancient watchmen on the walls, proclaim the fulfillment of God's purposes. For this is the prophetic reward, 77 years later, a sign, a wonder, a calling, to remember, to awaken, to stand firm in faith. For the God of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps, and his purposes will be accomplished. The question is not whether the prophecy will unfold, but whether we will be ready when it does. 2/2 historical fulfillment. The speech highlights May 14, 1948, as a miraculous and prophetic event when Israel was reborn, fulfilling ancient biblical prophecies against all odds. The significance of 77 years. It emphasizes the prophetic meaning of the number 77, representing divine completion and fulfillment, indicating a crucial moment in the divine timetable. The divine promise, it asserts that Israel's survival and prosperity over the past 77 years is proof of the unwavering faithfulness of God's promises, despite opposition and threats. A prophetic warning, The speech positions Israel's restoration as a divine sign for the world, a warning and a wake-up call to recognize the unfolding of prophetic events. A call to action. It concludes with a call for vigilance, faith, and courage, urging the audience to discern the times, stand firm, speak truth, and recognize the prophetic significance of the moment. Historical fulfillment. The miraculous rebirth of Israel on May 14, 1948, a moment unfolded that defied logic, transcended history, and echoed through the corridors of prophecy. After nearly 2,000 years of exile, dispersion, and persecution, a scattered people returned to their ancient homeland. Against all odds, the nation of Israel was reborn, an event that was not merely a political development, but the fulfillment of ancient prophecies spoken by seers and scribes millennia ago. It was an event that transformed the impossible into reality and turned the pages of sacred texts into headlines of modern history. A nation reborn against all odds. Consider the impossible nature of this event. For centuries, the land of Israel lay desolate, a barren and forsaken region under the control of foreign empires. The Jewish people were scattered across the earth, persecuted, marginalized, and in many cases, nearly exterminated. From the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 A.D. to the horrors of the Holocaust, they were a people without a homeland, a nation without a state. Yet, through all the darkness, the promise remained written in the ancient scriptures, "I will bring you back to your own land. I will gather you from the nations." Ezekiel 36:24. Skeptics dismissed it as a poetic ideal, an impossible dream. Yet, on that fateful day in 1948, that dream became reality. David Ben-Gurion, standing before the world, declared the establishment of the State of Israel. At that moment, a prophecy spoken thousands of years earlier found its fulfillment. A miracle of preservation and return, but it was not just a political victory. It was a divine appointment. The Jewish people were not only preserved through centuries of exile and persecution, but they maintained their identity, their faith, and their ancient language. Hebrew, once a dead language spoken only in prayers, became a living, thriving language on the streets of a new nation. How could such a thing happen? How could a scattered people, who faced endless trials and suffering, return and revive their ancient land and culture? The answer lies not in human strategy, but in the divine promise. The land that blooms again, the prophecies did not only speak of a people returning. They spoke of a land that would bloom. Once desolate, the land of Israel became a thriving center of agriculture, technology, and innovation. Swamps were drained, deserts were transformed, and the barren fields yielded harvests. As the prophet Isaiah declared, "The desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose," of Isaiah 35:1, and so it did. A testimony to the nations, the rebirth of Israel is more than a story of national resilience. It is a testimony to the faithfulness of God. It is a living sign to the nations that the word of God does not fail. Empires have risen and fallen, kingdoms have come and gone, yet the people of Israel returned just as foretold. This is why May 14, 1948 is not merely a date on the calendar. It is a prophetic milestone, a divine marker in the unfolding story of humanity. A prophetic blueprint unfolding, but the story does not end there. The existence of Israel in the heart of the Middle East remains a sign, a living testament, and a call to recognize the divine blueprint at work. For those who understand the ancient prophecies, Israel's rebirth is not just a historical event. It is a harbinger of greater things to come. It is a reminder that history is not random, that the God who promised Israel's return is the same God who governs the destinies of all nations. In a world where so much seems uncertain, May 14, 1948 stands as a beacon, a reminder that the impossible is possible, that the divine word endures, and that the ancient promises are alive even today. The significance of 77 years, a divine pattern of completion in the realm of the divine. Numbers are more than mere mathematical symbols. They are keys to understanding the mysteries of heaven and earth. Among these, the number 77 stands out as a profound emblem of divine completeness and fulfillment. It is not just a number, it is a prophetic sign, a sacred blueprint that reveals the orchestration of time by the Creator. As we stand on the threshold of 77 years since the rebirth of Israel on May 14, 1948, we are invited to recognize that we are witnessing a significant milestone, one that is rich in prophetic meaning. The mystery of 7, divine perfection and completion. To understand the significance of 77, we must first grasp the importance of the number 7. In the sacred texts, 7 is the number of divine perfection and completion. Creation was completed in 7 days. The Sabbath, the seventh day, is a day of rest, symbolizing the completion of creation's work. The book of Revelation is filled with sevens, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls, each representing the fullness of divine judgment and fulfillment. But when 7 is doubled, becoming 77, it is a magnification of that divine completeness. It is a double portion of perfection, a superlative fulfillment. It is as if the divine plan is being emphasized with a sense of urgency and certainty. 77 is not just the sum of 7 and 7. It is a declaration that what is unfolding is not random, but divinely orchestrated. 77 generations, a lineage of promise in the genealogy of Jesus recorded in the Gospel of Luke, we find a profound detail. There are 77 generations from Adam to the Messiah. This is not a coincidence, but a divine design. It is a prophetic declaration that history is moving towards a destined completion, that the promises made from the dawn of humanity are coming to fulfillment. 77 and the prophetic clock. As we stand 77 years from the miraculous rebirth of Israel in 1948, we must ask ourselves, why is this moment significant? In the prophetic calendar, 77 years is not just an anniversary, it is a signal, a marker in the divine timetable. The rebirth of Israel was itself a prophetic fulfillment, a testimony that the ancient promises spoken by the prophets have not failed. But 77 years later, we are witnessing another layer of fulfillment. Could this be a sign that we are entering a new phase in the divine plan? Could it be a call to awaken, to recognize that we are living in prophetic times? For those who discern the times, the significance of 77 cannot be ignored. It is a reminder that the story of Israel is not just an ancient narrative, it is a living prophecy that continues to unfold before our eyes. The double portion of fulfillment 77 is also a double portion, a reminder that God's promises are not only fulfilled but fulfilled in abundance. The ancient land of Israel, once desolate, has become a land of prosperity. The people of Israel, once scattered, have become a thriving nation, and the divine purposes, once shrouded in mystery, are now being unveiled with greater clarity. But this double portion is not just for Israel. It is a call to the nations, a reminder that the God who fulfills his promises to one people is the same God who governs the destinies of all. Those who align with his purposes will experience blessing, while those who oppose will face judgment. A call to recognize the times as we stand at the mark of 77 years. It is not just a moment to celebrate. It is a moment to discern. The world may see it as another date on the calendar, but for those with eyes to see, it is a prophetic milestone. It is a reminder that the divine timetable is moving forward, that history is not random, and that the God who kept his promise to Israel is the same God who holds the future in his hands. The countdown continues 77 years, a double portion of completion, a divine declaration, and a prophetic reminder. The rebirth of Israel was not the end, but the beginning of a series of prophetic fulfillments that continue to unfold. As the world races towards an uncertain future, the significance of 77 is a beacon, a call to awaken, to prepare, and to stand firm. For in the mysteries of divine timing, nothing is without purpose, and every moment carries the weight of eternity. 77 years is not just a number. It is a prophetic message, a divine whisper calling us to watch, to understand, and to be ready. The divine promise, a testament to unwavering faithfulness amid the shifting sands of history, where empires rise and fall, where kingdoms are born and vanish. There exists a singular thread, a divine promise that has defied time, circumstance, and the might of nations. It is the promise given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, an everlasting covenant that declared that the descendants of Israel would possess the land of their forefathers. This promise, written in ancient texts, was not just a poetic hope. It was a declaration from the Creator of the universe. And over the past 77 years, this divine promise has been vindicated, as Israel has not only survived but thrived, standing as a living testimony to the faithfulness of God. The covenant that endures the story of Israel is a story of a divine covenant, one that began thousands of years ago in the fields of Canaan. When God spoke to Abraham, he declared, "To your descendants I will give this land." Genesis 12:7. This promise was renewed with Isaac, and again with Jacob, transforming it from a personal promise to a national covenant. But it was not just a promise of land. It was a promise of divine protection, a guarantee that no matter how dark the night, the people of Israel would not be abandoned. A history of survival against all odds for centuries, it seemed as though this promise was broken. The people of Israel were scattered to the ends of the earth, subjected to exile, persecution, and suffering. The Babylonian captivity, the Roman destruction of Jerusalem, the Crusades, the Inquisition, the pogroms, and the unspeakable horrors of the Holocaust, each was an attempt to erase the Jewish people from history. Yet, despite the relentless waves of hatred they endured, this endurance was not a mere accident of history. It was the evidence of a divine promise at work. For God had declared, "Though I make a full end of all nations where I have scattered you, I will not make a full end of you." Jeremiah 30:11. Empires that sought to destroy Israel have become relics of history, but Israel remains, alive, thriving, and stronger than ever. A land restored, a people revived, but the divine promise did not end with survival. It extended to prosperity. On May 14, 1948, Israel was reborn as a sovereign nation, a fulfillment of the ancient prophecies that declared the people of Israel would return to their land. The world watched as a scattered people returned to a land that had been barren and desolate for centuries. But the promise was not just about a return, it was about restoration. In the decades that followed, Israel transformed from a barren wilderness into a land of abundance. Swamps were drained, deserts were cultivated, and technology flourished. The land that was once forsaken became a leader in agriculture, medicine, technology, and defense. How is it that a nation born amidst hostility and surrounded by enemies has not only survived but prospered? It is the manifestation of the divine promise, "I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse." Genesis 12:3. Preserved despite opposition from the moment of its rebirth, Israel has faced existential threats. Wars in 1948, 1956, 1967, 1973, each an attempt to destroy this tiny nation. Terrorism, economic boycotts, diplomatic isolation, each a new strategy to undermine it. And yet, with every challenge, Israel has emerged stronger. This is not merely a story of military prowess or political strategy. It is the evidence of divine protection. The world has watched as Israel has not only defended itself, but also become a beacon of innovation, democracy, and resilience. Surrounded by hostile neighbors, it has become a leader in technology, medicine, and agriculture, a light to the nations. This is the fulfillment of another ancient promise: you will be a blessing to all nations. Genesis 12:2. The divine promise, a living testimony, the survival and prosperity of Israel over the past 77 years, is more than a political achievement. It is a prophetic reality. It is a living testimony to the faithfulness of God's promises. Those who tried to erase Israel have been erased. Those who cursed Israel have been cursed, but Israel remains a sign, a wonder, and a witness. This divine promise is not just a historical fact, it is a message to the world. It declares that the God who keeps his promises to Israel is the same God who is faithful to his word in every generation. It is a reminder that in a world of uncertainty, there is a foundation that cannot be shaken, a divine promise that endures. A call to recognize the promise as we reflect on 77 years of Israel's miraculous survival and prosperity. We must recognize that this is not just a story of a nation. It is a declaration to all humanity. It is a call to understand that the God who keeps his covenant is alive and active in the affairs of the world. Those who align themselves with his purposes are blessed, and those who stand against them are confounded. The promise is alive, the prophecy is unfolding, and the world is invited to witness the faithfulness of the God who keeps his word. A prophetic warning, Israel's restoration as a divine alarm in the theater of history. Certain events stand not merely as moments in time, but as messages, divine declarations that speak beyond their immediate context. The restoration of Israel in 1948 is one such event. It is not just the rebirth of a nation. It is a prophetic warning, a wake-up call from the heavens. It is a sign that the ancient words of the prophets are not relics of the past, but living truths that continue to unfold. For those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, the restoration of Israel is a trumpet blast, declaring that the divine timetable is advancing, a sign written in prophecy long before the modern world took shape. The prophets of ancient Israel spoke of a future return. They declared that though the Jewish people would be scattered among the nations, a day would come when they would be regathered to their ancient homeland. The prophet Ezekiel wrote of a valley of dry bones coming to life, an image of a nation that seemed dead, rising again. Ezekiel 37. The prophet Isaiah declared, "Can a nation be born in a day?" Isaiah 66:8. A rhetorical question that became a literal reality on May 14, 1948. Yet these prophecies were not merely about the return. They were about a divine timetable, a sequence of events that would signal the approach of even greater prophetic fulfillments. The restoration of Israel is the foundation upon which many other prophecies stand, a harbinger of the unfolding of end-time events. A world that watches and trembles since its rebirth, Israel has been at the center of global attention. Wars have been fought, peace treaties signed and broken, international resolutions passed, all focused on this tiny nation in the Middle East. But why? Why does the world's gaze continually return to this small strip of land? It is because Israel is not just a nation. It is a prophetic epicenter. The events that occur within and around Israel are not random. They are part of a divine script, a drama that is playing out on the world stage. But this focus on Israel is not just political, it is spiritual. The nations that have sought to destroy it have found themselves in conflict with a force beyond their understanding. Those who have blessed it have been blessed, and those who have cursed it have been confounded. History has testified to this truth, and yet the world continues to wrestle with the same ancient conflict, ignorant of the prophetic warning it represents. The convergence of prophecies, but the restoration of Israel, is not the end of the story. It is the beginning. It is the first of a series of prophetic events that are destined to unfold. The scriptures speak of a time when Jerusalem will become a cup of trembling. For the nations, Zechariah 12:2. A time when the world will gather against it, unaware that in doing so they are aligning themselves against the God of Israel. In the last 77 years, we have seen this prophecy taking shape. Jerusalem has become a point of international contention. Nations have sought to divide it, control it, and claim it. Terrorism, diplomatic battles, and even wars have centered around this ancient city. Yet each conflict, each negotiation, each declaration is not just political, it is prophetic. It is a divine reminder that the world is moving towards a moment of decision, a wake-up call to the nations, but the prophetic warning of Israel's restoration is not just for the Jewish people, it is for the world. It is a call to awaken from spiritual slumber, to recognize that history is not random but divinely orchestrated. The events surrounding Israel are not isolated. They are interconnected with the destiny of all nations. Those who stand with Israel align themselves with the divine promise, while those who stand against it align themselves against the purposes of God. This is why the world's obsession with Israel is more than a geopolitical puzzle, it is a spiritual battle. Nations are being tested, leaders are making choices that will have eternal consequences, and in the midst of this, the restoration of Israel stands as a prophetic warning, a declaration that the ancient words are alive, that the God of Israel is not a myth but a living reality. The hour is late, a call to discern. We stand 77 years from the miraculous restoration of Israel, a prophetic marker, a divine alarm. It is a reminder that time is moving forward, that the divine timetable is advancing, and that we are approaching a moment of decision. The world is in turmoil, nations are in conflict, but amidst the chaos Israel stands, an unshakable testimony that God's word is true. But what will we do with this warning? Will we continue to watch in ignorance, treating these events as mere news headlines? Or will we awaken to the reality that we are living in prophetic times? For those who have eyes to see, Israel's restoration is a call to repentance, a call to faith, a call to prepare, a warning that demands a response. The prophetic warning is not just a declaration, it is an invitation. An invitation to align ourselves with the divine purpose, to stand with the God of Israel, and to recognize that the future is not in the hands of human powers, but in the hands of the Almighty. The trumpet has sounded. The warning has been given. The question is not whether prophecy will unfold, but whether we will be ready when it does. A call to action, rising to the prophetic moment in a world overwhelmed by chaos, conflict, and confusion. There is a voice that calls out, a voice that does not merely inform but demands a response. This is not a time for complacency, for passive observation, or for silent witness. It is a time for action, a call to vigilance, faith, and courage. As we stand 77 years from the prophetic restoration of Israel, a divine marker in history, we are summoned not merely to recognize this moment, but to respond to it. This is a call to awaken, to discern, to stand firm, and to speak truth in a world desperate for light. Discern the times, understanding the prophetic hour. The first step in this call to action is discernment. We are living in an age where distractions abound, where endless streams of information cloud the truth, and the noise of the world drowns out the voice of reason. But amidst this chaos, there is a divine narrative unfolding. The restoration of Israel was not just a historical event, it was a prophetic signal, a sign that the ancient promises are not merely words on a page, but living realities. The convergence of events in the Middle East, the growing tension among nations, and the increasing hostility towards Israel are not random. They are the echoes of prophecy. To discern the times is to recognize that we are living in a divine timetable. It is to see that the struggles of the present are not just geopolitical conflicts but spiritual battles. It is to understand that Israel is not merely a nation. It is a prophetic witness, a divine clock marking the approach of greater events. We must awaken from spiritual slumber, for the hour is late and the stakes are high. Stand firm, anchored in unshakable faith. Discernment is essential, but it is not enough. Knowledge without conviction is powerless. In an age where the world is shifting, where values are redefined and truth is compromised, we are called to stand firm. To stand with Israel is not merely a political position. It is a stand for truth, for the fulfillment of divine promises, for the God who is faithful to his word. But standing firm is not just about supporting Israel. It is about standing firm in faith. It is about holding on to the promises of God even when the world scoffs. It is about believing in the divine purposes even when circumstances seem impossible. It is about being unshakable in a world that is constantly shaken. Speak truth. A voice in a world of deception, but standing firm, must be accompanied by another essential action: speaking truth. In a world dominated by false narratives, misinformation, and deceit, the voice of truth is a rare and precious thing. But it is not enough to know the truth in our hearts. We must declare it with our mouths. We must be willing to speak of the divine promise, the prophetic fulfillment, and the reality of God's faithfulness. We must be a voice that proclaims that the restoration of Israel is not a historical accident, but a divine appointment. A voice that warns of the dangers of standing against the divine purpose. A voice that calls people to recognize the prophetic hour, for silence in the face of deception is complicity. Embrace courage, fearless in the face of opposition, but to speak truth requires courage. We live in a world where truth is often met with hostility, where those who stand for biblical principles are ridiculed, canceled, or persecuted. But this is not a time for fear. It is a time for courage. For the God who kept his promise to Israel is the same God who stands with those who stand for his truth. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act in spite of it. It is the strength to stand for truth even when the majority stands against you. It is the boldness to defend what is right, even when it is unpopular. For those who recognize the prophetic significance of this moment must also be willing to respond to it, no matter the cost. Become a watchman, a guardian of the divine word. In ancient times, the watchman stood on the walls, vigilant, alert, and ready to sound the alarm at the first sign of danger. Today, we are called to be watchmen, not with swords and shields, but with discernment and truth. We are called to be those who recognize the signs of the times, who do not remain silent, and who are not swayed by the opinions of the world. We are called to pray for Israel, to support its survival, and to defend its right to exist. But more than that, we are called to proclaim that its restoration is a divine sign, a warning, and a call to prepare. For as watchmen, we are not merely spectators. We are guardians of the divine message. Awaken to the moment, a decision that cannot be ignored. This is not just a call to action. It is a call to decision. Will we remain silent in the face of unfolding prophecy, or will we rise to the challenge? Will we allow fear to silence us, or will we speak with courage? Will we watch history unfold with passive curiosity, or will we become active participants in the divine purpose? This is a call to recognize the hour, to stand for truth, to proclaim the prophetic reality, and to prepare for what is to come. The restoration of Israel was not the end, it was the beginning. And as the world moves towards greater uncertainty, those who understand this moment must become a light in the darkness. The time is now, the call has been given, the choice is yours. Will you be a voice of truth, a beacon of faith, a watchman on the walls? The world is waiting. History is watching, and the divine purpose is unfolding, and so we stand at the crossroads of history and destiny, at the edge of the ancient and the imminent, at the place where prophecy becomes reality. 77 years, a sacred number, a double portion, a divine marker. We are not merely observing history. We are living in the midst of a divine mystery. The restoration of Israel is not just a story of the past. It is a trumpet blast from eternity, a living testimony to the faithfulness of God, and a prophetic warning to the world. But this moment is not just about Israel. It is about all of us. For the God who keeps his promise to Israel is the same God who governs the destinies of nations, the same God who calls each of us by name. And the question before us is this: will we recognize the hour we are in? Will we stand with truth when the world turns to lies? Will we be watchmen on the walls, voices of light in a darkening world? For the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has declared it. His word will not return void. The nations may rage, the kings may conspire, but his purposes will be accomplished. Israel has risen, prophecy is unfolding, and the divine clock is moving forward, and the call has gone forth to discern the times, to stand firm, to speak truth, to rise with courage, and to prepare. So let us be those who are not silent, not passive, not fearful. Let us be those who shine with the light of truth, who stand with unwavering faith, who walk with the courage of lions. For the hour is late, the trumpet is sounding, and the time is now. May we stand as those who are awake, as those who are ready, as those who are faithful, and may we be found among those who answer the call.